Jak III is one of those games that really has a lot on its shoulders. Jak II is a total embarrassment from start to finish in my opinion, and I don't think that's just due to personal gripes. There are many people online who complain about the same major flaws in Jak II, meaning it's a more commonly disliked game than some reviews would have you believe. But I still wanted to push through with reviewing all of the Naughty Dog Jak games, and after having beaten Jak II and subsequently losing my faith in humanity, I decided I would play Jak III. My hopes weren't very high though. I went into Jak III expecting something just as bad, if not worse than Jak II, but that isn't what I got, thankfully. Jak III is very similar to Jak II in a scary way. It fundamentally takes the same exact mechanics that already existed and just expands upon them. It's sort of like a Spider-Man Miles Morales situation, except if the first Spider-Man game was a piece of filth. The guns are recycled, characters are recycled, the open world of Haven City is recycled. This might just be the most environmentally friendly game ever. But there are also a lot of new ideas added to the game to keep it fresh, so it doesn't just feel like Jak II all over again. And trust me, I really wouldn't have liked to go through it if it was. This game is, on paper, a very direct sequel to the second game, with the same gameplay style for most of it, but in the end, it does change a lot for the better. The first major thing that Jak III does differently is mission structure. Rather than placing missions in very different parts of the map, this game puts the start of missions right where others end, allowing you to keep playing without breaking the flow of the game. This does make the game way shorter than Jak II, which many Jak II defenders like to point out, but I'd prefer to play a game that gets to the point and that's short but entertaining than a game that's 5 hours longer but is an absolute slog for a quarter of its length. And Jak III manages to keep things solidly condensed while also blowing up the scale massively. Remember how impressive the first game was? Well, the second game made it way bigger. Oh, and that wasn't even Naughty Dog's final form, because this game is gigantic, especially for the PS2, and many of the areas reused from the last game are still redesigned, making it absolutely astounding that they managed to push this out in just 1 year after Jak II. Not only do we have the first large area of the game in Spargus, a bustling, vibrant, and beautiful city with gorgeous landmarks and challenges that are still pretty repetitive, but nevertheless quite fun, but we also get Haven City from the first game, and the absolutely enormous wastelands, which even feel huge when driving around them with the brand new vehicles. It's honestly shocking that this game has 3 huge worlds and manages to still be shorter and way more fun than Jak II. That's either a testament to how well designed this game is, or to how goddamn boring the last one was. I'll let you decide. And not only do the missions actually take place near one another, but they're also fun too. Imagine that! The majority of missions this time are actual gameplay where you control Jak and use the mechanics of the game. But there are also missions that switch things up. Now, what I'm about to say is something I never expected to say in my life. Spyro is my favorite game ever. And the second and third games in that series, while good, are nowhere near the original for me due to one thing: forced variety. So many objectives have new gameplay styles that feel pointless and annoying. Jak II suffers from this, but has so many other issues that variety isn't even the main problem with that game. And Jak III has lots of variety too. A recipe for disaster, right? Well, no. This game is actually improved because of its variety. Jesus, I still can't believe I'm saying that. In the first few hours, you'll experience gameplay with riding a weird dragon thing, driving a car through the wastelands, racing, hang gliding, and even platforming as Daxter that's reminiscent of Crash Bandicoot. Normally, this would be jarring, annoying, and just not fun, but in Jak III, each gameplay style manages to be equally enjoyable and fleshed out, so whenever things switch up styles, it feels like a nice change of pace, rather than a gimmick. This was immediately promising to me, and the missions flowing better was also a huge deal to keep me interested. I still didn't want to get my hopes up, but I started to feel like this game might actually be something beautiful. It was very cautious happiness, but once Act 2 rolled around, I became worried. You go back to Haven City, and things began to feel a lot more like Jak II for a moment. But wait a minute. No Crimson Guard, almost no other drivers, better vehicle control and physics, variety in locales, things going on in the world, actual atmosphere. What? It's beautiful. This is finally what the world of the last game should have been. It's fun to explore, and though quite empty, doesn't require you to go through it for hours on end, doesn't make navigation a complete chore, and has an active war going on. Yay! This might be the one time that making a city into an active war zone actually made the city a lot nicer. I started to really get into the groove of the game through Act 2, with nearly every mission being enjoyable, the story really starting to develop, and the base gameplay reaching an amazing level. In fact, let me tell you exactly why the gameplay is so good. First up, we have the difficulty. Oh boy, the difficulty of Jak II was as high as a guy on top of a skyscraper. What? Were you expecting a joke about drugs? Wow, you really need to get your mind out of the gutter, man. Jak III's difficulty is way on the other side of the spectrum, being extremely forgiving in many areas. Only a few missions became legitimately tough, with most of them having actual checkpoints. How crazy. Health is also a lot more frequent, along with ammo, and enemies don't swarm you nearly as much. Invincibility frames are actually fair this time, the level design favors the player actually beating the game rather than dying 20 times, and there aren't nearly as many terrible escort or driving missions. The missions often mix the different gameplay styles perfectly, and even if it's something brand new that you might not be the greatest at controlling, if you can try pretty hard, you'll be able to beat it with just a few attempts. The game focuses more on empowering the player and allowing you to enjoy the gameplay than on making you want to throw your controller out of the window. Apart from that one driving segment that is the definition of annoying, but that's one short part of the whole game. This works in tandem with the new gameplay ideas, which also help to tip the scale into your favor. Not only does Dark Jak return, but we get Light Jak as well. To give you an idea of how lame Jak II's Dark Jak was, I didn't even mention it in a 20-minute review of that game. It's that forgettable and underutilized. But in this game, Dark Jak is used a lot more and even has a better design. But Light Jak is where the game really, dare I say, shines? Being able to turn invisible to solve puzzles, slow time to hop across platforms and dodge obstacles, and even grow wings and fly through the air is just awesome! If you can look at Jak flying around like an angel and not automatically see why this game is better than Jak II, then you're insane. Light Jak is one of the best mechanics of the whole Jak series yet, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. The jet board is massively overhauled and controls very nicely, and I really enjoyed using it. The Daxter gameplay is pretty fun too, and then we have the car gameplay. Now, if Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts is any indication, putting a beloved platformer series into a barren wasteland with cars can really blow up in your face. And you had better believe that this game has barren wastelands, because it's literally called The Wastelands. But this is actually fun as hell. I love driving around this desert area with different cars, some of which have the best speed in turning, some can jump super high and bring a new level of platforming challenges, and some are focused on vehicular combat. These are great fun and they all control well, adding new mechanics and actually being one of the best parts of the whole game. It's especially fun during one of the first missions when you have to kill giant metal heads with your car, which feels like Horizon Zero Dawn with cars, which... do I have to explain why I love this? The game also feels a lot more original due to all these factors, and even into the very last missions it's offering some of my favorite parts of the gameplay and some of the coolest mechanics that not only blow up the spectacle, but also work incredibly well too. The final missions are a lot more challenging, but the final major improvement of this game really helps with that, namely the arsenal. In Jak II, you had 4 basic weapons. That's not a joke, you had 4 weapons, Dark Jak in your fists. It was super basic and definitely a lame introduction to the idea of gunplay that really felt like it was just shoved in there. Ratchet & Clank came out a year before and was filled with tons of great creative weapons, so there was really no excuse for this. But in Jak III, we have 12 weapons, literally triple from before, and some of these new ones are just insanely cool. We have 4 ammo types still, but each type of gun reused from Jak II gets 2 other upgrades that change how the gun works completely. A lightning gun, a grenade launcher, a giant shockwave gun, a blast that freezes all enemies in the air, and an orb that goes out and fires in all directions are among my favorites. And since there are more missions with the base gameplay, the potential is actually fulfilled for all of these, which is a relief. Now, the game is quite short still, so it feels incomplete at many points, but that problem would quickly be remedied if we just had a sequel to this game to explore these mechanics further. So the gameplay is absolutely amazing in nearly every single way, but do the other aspects of Jak III suffer as a result? Hell no, the music is way better than Jak II and more on par with the first game. The visuals are insane for a PS2 game and definitely pushed it to its limit, and the story is fantastic. Jak III's story is even better than that of the first 2 games, with so many interesting characters who actually evolve and change more than ever before. The humor is top-notch while also providing an amazing twist near the end that motivates you to really hate the final boss, unlike the uninspired and boring twist that Jak II had. Jak III is in every way the comeback story of a generation, fixing nearly every single issue with Jak II and providing one of the most impressive and high-quality PS2 games of all time. I don't regret playing this game at all, and I really want to see a Jak 4 now. Jak 3 is a nearly perfect experience and one of the highest points of the 6th generation of gaming. A game with the scope of Jak 2 and the quality of the first game is just what we needed. Though the open world is sadly lacking sometimes, Jak 3 is an amazing game in nearly every other way. 4.5 out of 5 for sure. I can't wait to see what Jak X, as an interesting new spin-off, has in store for me.